Everybody here? Everyone? We're the home stretch, right? Well, apologies, I'm Amy Kaplan-Wolf, and I'll be your judge today. The 10-minute session, I've got a little preamble to read. I didn't do my elevator pitch on the preamble, so forgive. Okay. Right? Compelling. Okay. So, you've been called back by the company and to give you your full presentation for a second visit. They've asked you to speak only about the ethical aspects of the problem and to explain why your solution successfully handles any ethical issues. You have 10 minutes. There'll be no Q&A. You may not use slides or videos. You probably don't want to have more than 2 or 3 members of your team doing this. And I'll provide feedback after each presentation. Remember, breathe. Make your top 2-3 points. Make it compelling, and like make me want to like fund you, right? And give you what you need. So you're gonna do great, guys. So I think the first group up is the sustainability builders. Cuticles to communities, from empty offices into thriving neighborhoods. Let me ask you, do you have any like give you like 5-minute or not like prompts about when you're getting close?
Wouldn't hurt.
All right, so I'll give you guys prompts like at maybe 7 minutes, is that okay? And then I won't do the Academy Award cuts, but I'll get close to that, right? So let me know you guys are ready and I'll start the timer.
Good morning, esteemed members of the Amazon and WeWork Board of Directors. Today, we want to explore how you can transform cities through expanding your existing partnership. Today, we are here to propose cubicles to communities, transforming vacant office spaces into sustainable, affordable, co-living units. Yesterday, we presented that San Francisco has reached a office vacancy rate of 35%. We also presented that this is a profitable venture for you both. Imagine this, you're a single parent juggling 2 jobs, enduring long commutes because you can't afford to live near where you work. Or like us, soon-to-be graduates who spent their university years falling in love with the city. You built lasting friendships, and imagine starting your career here, but it is no longer possible because you can't afford to live there. These are not exceptions. These are the daily realities of thousands in the Bay Area. Let's be clear, this is not a zoning or economic issue. It is a moral one, and it demands corporate awareness and ethical leadership. We are witnessing a quiet exodus. Teachers, artists, healthcare workers, and service employees, the very people who keep our cities vibrant, are not able to afford them. Over the past 5 years, 34,000 residents have left the Bay Area. This ranks San Francisco among the top 4 counties with this rate. This is unsustainable, unjust, and unethical. Our proposal aligns directly with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 11, calling for inclusive, safe, resilient, sustainable cities. We are directly aiming for Target 1, calling for access to affordable housing for all by the year 2030. The question is, who will take the lead? Together, you have the knowledge and resources to do just that. Amazon, you have the global scale and financial capital. WeWork, you have the real estate knowledge and shared space expertise. Together, you can come together to build a partnership for change. What if Amazon and WeWork led the way in ethical urban development? What if, through this partnership, you transformed vacant offices into sustainable, affordable, resilient communities, not as a side project, but as an investment in ethical urban redevelopment?
Thank you, Jillian. The answer to that question is we hope that this is not just statistics or spreadsheets to you. This issue is about people, and in business ethics, people are stakeholders. Your customers, your neighbors, your employees are all affected by decisions you make as an organization. Ethical business practices must consider not just the harm, but the good or bad experienced by those around them. The housing crisis causes very real harm. It limits financial insecurity, it limits access to opportunity, and undermines the social fabric that makes cities like San Francisco healthy and vibrant. Now, Amazon. In WeWork, you both have the expertise to make this work better than anyone else, with both having shared positive mission statements. Amazon, your mission statement is to be Earth's most customer-centered company. WeWork, your core values lie in creating a place where people can collaborate, connect, and grow. Now together, put this opportunity to fulfill those statements through renovating vacant office spaces into residential units. And we believe there is a way forward. And that way begins with action. By addressing the housing crisis, you not only fulfill your mission statements, but you make a long and profounding impact. Amazon and WeWork, you create an ethical blueprint to solve not just a local fix, but a world-renowned fix. And this does not undermine your business objectives. On the contrary, it supports them. It enhances employee retention, customer support, and fosters long-term community. Amazon, let's start with you. You've already stated to understand that the housing connection and well-being. With your $3.6 billion housing fund, you've already created over 14,000 affordable homes in the areas like Northern Virginia, Nashville, Tennessee, and Seattle, Washington. This fund is more than a capital. It's an ethical commitment and understanding that housing stability is essential to urban resilience. We're asking you to expand that mission to San Francisco, which is a city that needs a bold solution. WeWork, while traditionally known for your office spaces, you bring something crucial to the vision. Your expertise in space optimization, adaptive reuse, and flexible leasing models, you have refined how people use commercial space. Now let's redefine how we live in it. Now it's time to expand that vision. And this isn't a departure from your mission, it's a co-evolution into a community. The concept works, and your expertise and knowledge with all your companies bring it to work better than anyone else. This isn't just a fix for a city, it's a scalable solution for others to follow. A solution that supports people, protects the planet, and makes sense for profit, and is driven by purpose. By acting now, you create a scalable solution for cities around the world. Alyssa, can you tell me what leadership looks like?
Thank you, Joanne. Like you said, leadership is crucial. Yes, there may be costs involved, and yes, there may be some logistical challenges, but we argue that the ethical cost of doing nothing is far greater. If San Francisco, a city known for wealth, innovation, and global influence, cannot set a precedent for affordable housing, we are sending the world a troubling message. That innovation cannot coexist with inclusion. That firefighters who work tirelessly every day to provide for their city cannot afford to live in a city that they save. That teachers who inspire the youth will not be able to see the outcome. Vacant office spaces will sit empty all while this demand is not being met. You can fix this. This partnership between WeWork and Amazon can set a global precedent for what ethical urban redevelopment looks like. It can prove that tech, commerce, and community can work together in harmony, especially when guided by purpose. Let us return to what we call the 3 Ps of ethical business: people, profit, and planet. Affordable housing supports people by offering dignity, safety, and stability. Profit, it supports profit by allowing communities to have more stronger and loyal bonds along with workforces. And it supports the planet by encouraging adaptive reuse of existing buildings, reducing waste, and promoting sustainable construction practices that are ethical. Affordable housing can lead to stronger communities by reducing crime rates, incentivizing local businesses, and revitalizing them as well. This is your opportunity to lead not just with success, but with significance. If we fail to act now, the consequences will compound: rising inequality and communities that are stripped of their diversity and creativity. Not only for San Francisco, but for cities globally around the world, who are looking at what strong corporate leaders like you, Amazon and WeWork, will do. We are not asking you to take a leap of faith. We are asking you to take a step of responsibility. Thank you.
Then we have 2 minutes to boot. Do you want feedback now, and then we'll move on to the next group?
That's fine.
And am I the only judging you? Anybody else? A lot of pressure. Just joking. So, first of all, you start off with very compelling, like, why am I here? What am I trying to present? I really like the fact that you didn't shame Amazon and WeWorks. It's really easy to say, well, you guys screwed up, look where we're at right now. You really built on what they've done to date and encourage them to want to step up even more, which is really positive. Because when you're bored, you don't really want, you want to be responsible and accountable, but you also want to be sort of recognize that you've made some great progress. I liked the very good specifics about who you're actually impacting in the city. So it's not the wealthy, IPO CEOs, which I used to live in Northern California in Carmel now, so I've worked in the Bay Area, and I know what San Francisco is about. But there are people who really care about that place that can't afford to live there, right? Your first responders, your firemen. So I thought that was really good to pick at the heartstrings. I think you guys did pretty good eye contact. I know when there's this weird thing that when you're trying to remember something, we tend to look up. I don't know, it's like some sort of brain neurological thing. Try not to do it, just because you lose the attention of the audience a bit. And I know you're searching for what you're going to say next, but try and stay focused on the eye contact. I like the pithy 3 Ps. It's a mouthful. Because that was very, I can remember those. And then the way you tied them, each P to an outcome was really great. And I think that kind of hit home for folks. And I think at the end of the day, I like the fact that you are sort of encouraging them to work together, not meeting competition with them, but to really kind of take your collective power and resources and let's do something about it. And that you also referenced cases where they've been successful in other places. So let's try and lift and shift that to San Francisco. So I thought you guys did a great job. I didn't see too many nerves. It's good to have notes occasionally because we all need notes, right? They're prompts for us, so that's perfectly okay. But I thought you were very succinct and you ended early and you didn't feel like you were rushed. Because I feel like a lot of the ones I've seen people that rush through it and you kind of miss the impact. So I thought you guys did a great job. So thank you very much for being the first ones here.
Thank you so much.
Okay, it looks like the next group is the Core 4 Consulting. Course to Table, Sustainable Future for Palm.
Good morning, everyone.
Howdy.
Good morning. We're very excited to spend our Friday with you guys.
I'm going to start. Are you good to start now?
Yeah, just let me know when.
All right, let's go.
Sounds great. Well, good morning, Cargill. Thank you so much for letting us speak about a prominent ethical issue, and that is the production of palm oil. What is palm oil? Palm oil is a vegetable oil that is found in African oil palms, and it can only be found within 10 degrees of the equator. And why is it important? Because palm oil is in 50% of supermarket products. Think about your cosmetics, detergent, soap, food, you name it. All of it has palm oil. You and me use it every single day. And with that comes a lot of ethical and sustainability issues. So let's get into it. We need to go towards a sustainable and ethical future. And we need to propose something that's going to strive towards that. So today, we're going to be talking about the dangers of continuing business as usual.
So of course we don't aim to shame Cargill, but it's important to call a spade a spade. And the first and most prominent issue with Cargill is the rainforest use. Cargill and agriculture in general contributing towards palm oil is incredibly destructive. Malaysia and Indonesia are responsible for 80% of the world's palm oil imports and have lost 30 million hectares of rainforest over the last 45 years. That's roughly equivalent in size to the surface area of Italy, which is an incredibly high amount of rainforest lost. Also, palm oil is responsible for 10% of the world's biodiversity lost through agriculture. We are destroying rainforests at an incredible rate and releasing 500 million metric tons of CO2 yearly. That's responsible to every car in the United States being driven every single day for a year. It's an incredibly high rate of loss. So we have to ask ourselves, why are we destroying precious rainforests? The answer is quite simple. It's profit. Palm oil is versatile, it's useful, and it's cheap to produce and and it's easy to sell at high prices. So we have to ask ourselves, is Cargill's current rainforest practices in alignment with intergenerational ethics? And the answer at present is no. We cannot allow ourselves to sacrifice the needs of future generations through exploitative current business practices. And we need to find a way to put ourselves in line and create palm oil in a way that allows us to create it for 20 years, 50 years, and 1,000 years into the future the same way.
Now addressing biodiversity loss. These palm plantations are not just destroying the land, the trees, and the soil, but are also impacting key species. Species like tigers, elephants, and orangutans are being driven to extinction. And the leading threat to their existence is palm oil. Extinction is a one-way door, and once species are gone, they can never return. Which is why we must ask the question, is it acceptable to drive these species to extinction to increase the margins of commodity crop? We as the dominant species have a responsibility to be the keepers of these species and ensure their livelihood.
We of course can't talk about palm oil production without talking about the people involved. Human rights abuses are widespread throughout rainforest agriculture, and Cargill makes no exception. Amnesty International in 2020 went into Cargill's palm oil plantations in Indonesia and Malaysia and found a swath of workers' rights abuses. There was labor exploitation, child labor, wage theft, and exposure to dangerous circumstances. There were children as young as 8 years old working in Cargill's palm oil plantations, and there was long-time tenured workers making less than $3 per day in violation of the laws, both of the United States, international laws, and the laws of the areas where they were working. This is absolutely unacceptable and can't be perpetrated long-term. We have to ask ourselves, what is the price of convenience for palm oil? Can we allow ourselves to take advantage of workers long-term? And the answer is no. Palm oil, since 2000, has paid $220 million in restitution lawsuits for human rights abuses and for environmental degradation concerns. This is not a sustainable practice. It's hurting Cargill's bottom line, and it's destroying their ability to work with people long-term.
And this is why ethical leadership is so important. Yes, 18% of palm oil right now is registered as sustainable. But what does the certification really mean? There isn't much upkeep with it, and consumers have lost trust in the system of whether their palm oil is sustainable or not. And that's why we have a solution. We want to propose NEOPALM, which is a joint venture between Cargill and C16.
C16 Bioscience uses a fermentation process to make a lab-grown synthetic palm oil alternative that is completely chemically identical to traditional palm oil, an exact one-for-one. Through this proposition, our partnership with Cargill, using their vast supply chain internationally, will help expand the supply and scalability of C16's synthetic palm oil. Now, this is not just about doing this for attention or media perception, but also aligning profit with principle. Through this, we are really hoping to align corporate responsibility and make the use of palm oil more sustainable. Right now, through the destruction of these rainforests, this is destroying the strongest carbon sink in our world. So we have two key questions. Are corporations responsible for the future of generations? And second, can we really justify short-term profits for the long-term health of the planet?
To that we answer yes and no. Through a collaboration between Cargill and C16 Biosciences, NEOPALM, we find ourselves in alignment with intergenerational ethics. We are allowed to provide for the needs of the future, the needs of the present, and the needs of the rainforest ecosystems which we're relying on at present for Cargill's production resources. We're excited.
We also need to talk about corporate responsibilities. There's greenwashing going on where they're kind of deceiving consumers into thinking, oh yeah, I'm getting sustainable palm oil. Is it really sustainable? And why should consumers be misled when they really think they're making the right choice? They think they're buying sustainable palm oil, but it's not sustainable. And that's why they need to use NEOPALM in their products.
We believe that the future of ethical leadership in palm oil comes through partnership and collaboration. Cargill has the existing capital as a private company and the largest private company in America, with enormous supply chains in agriculture and endless capital, and C16 has a paradigm-shifting new technology. Through their synthetic palm oil, they're able to replace the existing infrastructure of the palm oil market. It takes no deforestation, it takes no land use, there's no human rights abuses, and it's a domestically produced product. We believe that through the collaboration between the two, NEOPALM, we're able to fulfill Sustainable Development Goal 12, responsible production and consumption, and Sustainable Development Goal 15, life on land. We think that this is the future of palm oil. We have to ask ourselves, as consumers, and you have to ask yourself as Cargill, what is the price that you're willing to pay for convenience? Are you willing to destroy rainforest ecosystems? Are you willing to allow yourself to exploit workers? Are you willing to push species to extinction? We answer no. We think that through collaboration between C16 and Cargill, we're able to completely eliminate some of the most fundamental issues inherent to the palm oil industry and take a step in this more sustainable direction for the future. Thank you so much for hearing us out.
So I didn't even know about this palm oil thing. I probably I'm using it all the time and don't realize it. So I thought it was a really good setup to say, like, let's talk about how proliferated palm oil is and why it's such a big issue. So I would say, great defining what palm oil is and how it's so omnipresent. I thought you made a great case of the data in terms of what it means in terms of the scale and the magnitude, like the size of Italy and the car for every year that you described it. So I think really kind of painting that picture about how critical this is and what the impacts are is great, and I think that helps paint the picture. A little tough on the Cargyle board of it because it was like, you do this, you do this, you do that. All good calls to action, but it might be a way to say, we want to, we really feel like it's incumbent on you as a role model. Like, you got to kind of build them up a bit. Like, we believe that you have the magnitude of the largest private company in the U.S. and we think you can build on that momentum. So just be conscious of that, because sometimes if you get too preachy with the board, their eyes roll back in their heads. Talked a little fast, so you had a lot to share, and you knew your facts, which is awesome. So, but slow down, because I think if you kind of paused a bit and kind of made it a little bit more, take your time, I think that would have had more impact. But I love the facts you brought up, so you knew your stuff very well. And I think you both did great as well. I think you felt really confident about the eye contact. I saw you kind of look around, which is really good because that way you're making eye contact. And you can just pause on one person for 3 seconds. It may feel like I know it's weird for you to look, but just 1 or 2 seconds makes the difference because you're connecting with them and they're going to advocate for you. And then I think also the synthetic palm oil. So I got a question. I know it's about sustainability, but is there an additional cost of the synthetic palm oil, or is it less expensive in general because of how you source it and how you produce it?
So it's sort of interesting because right now it's run by a tiny company still going through initial investment rounds. So the scaling of it is a little bit more expensive because it doesn't have infrastructure that a large company would have. So traditional palm oil is more expensive, but it doesn't have some of the externalities inherent to the palm industry. We mentioned Cargill has paid $220 million in just restitution fees. They also have to ship it over, they have to process it internationally. There's a lot of external fees that exist. But if you're able to combine a company with a large existing refinement network and just put a different input, through upscaling, costs are quickly able to lower. So we didn't talk about it because we weren't here to talk about economics, but we were here to talk about the inherent ethical issues. But long term, it's very feasible to make synthetic palm oil cheaper than traditional palm oil and without any of the negative externalities that are inherent to the industry.
Yeah, and that may have been the call to action to say, because Cargyle is such a leader, in this industry and a role model to this type of work, you can actually be the one who carries the torch on helping this synthetic palm oil get the scale it needs to, right? That you could use that as a way to say, hey, you've got the cloud, let's leverage you to go and use that. Again, you know your stuff really well. So I think in general, it was compelling because I learned something I didn't know about. And I thought too, the data and the facts were good. I think the other thing I would do is just, you got some great points, don't exhaust your audience, let them, kind of step into it. But again, I couldn't do what you guys do at the ages you are right now, or age I am right now, so really well done, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, how are we all doing? Good?
Good.
I think I'm probably the ones who are done like, thanks a lot. Okay, now we have next gen tech solutions for AI and hospital.
Hello, hi.
So let me know whenever you're ready.
So good morning, everyone. Before we start our presentation, we would like to start off with this fact. During this 10-minute presentation, sadly, 5 children will pass away from a water sanitation-related disease. So we will introduce ourselves once again. My name is Ella Call.
And I'm Kamarama Krishnan.
And we are excited to be back for Next Gen Tech Solutions. Well, yesterday we presented our overall problem. Today we'll be exploring the ethical issues and environmental sustainability of our solution. This is implementing propylene glycol into future Microsoft data centers. So, first off, more people don't have access to fresh water than people that do. 4.2 billion people last year did not have access to adequate water or sanitation. This is over half of our world's population. Think about this nice hot day. While we're all outside, we want to take a step back, and have a nice glass of water to refresh ourselves. That is not the reality for most. Last year, over 1 million people died from water sanitation-related diseases. And on average, every 2 minutes, a child dies from a water-related sanitation disease. The tech industry is one of the largest consumers of water. This is because their current cooling methods rely on water-intensive methods that puts pressure on our already limited freshwater supply. To make matters worse, 20% of these companies took water from mildly or highly stressed watersheds in the western U.S. And your company alone used over 8 billion liters of water. Now, we propose propylene glycol. This is an antifreeze cooling agent which will be implemented in a closed-loop system to reduce your water consumption by up to 50%.
In addition to the private sector, Microsoft has an ethical obligation to help out with the transition to sustainability. The UN has stated that without the help of private sectors, the sustainability goals will fail. In addition, none of the targets for UN Sustainability Goal number 6 are expected to be met by 2030. Better management of our water resources needs to be used in order to help us come closer to our goals. And Microsoft also has an obligation that by 2030, they want to become water positive, carbon negative, and zero waste. Now we're going to move on to some of the essential aspects of implementing propylene glycol into AI water cooling systems, which we talked about yesterday during our presentation.
Many people have the unreasonable assumption that not having access to water means you may go thirsty for a couple of days, but it's actually much more than that. People who drink contaminated water and don't have water suffer from illnesses such as dysentery, hepatitis, as well as dehydration. In addition, children face the heaviest burden of these issues. Children are more likely to be involved in child labor and involved in child marriages as a result of water scarcity as their families struggle to survive. Well, what I'm trying to get at is every day, millions of children wake up to the stark reality that clean water is a very far and distant dream. As their little hands struggle to carry containers for miles under the scorching hot sun. Despite the resilience, the water they bring back is often contaminated, leaving them susceptible to disease. This issue is no longer about water. It is about our children, their future, and their dreams. How can we sit back and watch the most innocent and precious lives suffer the heaviest burden of this water scarcity issue?
I think Ella made it very clear that there are some very serious ethical consequences at play here. Large data centers consume vast amounts of water, not only from people, but from large water resources, which exacerbates scarcity. When taking water from these resources, they often take out shellfish, fish, and eggs, which causes harm and sometimes even death. I have pulled out this quote from Microsoft's corporate responsibility. In 2020, Microsoft committed to becoming carbon negative, water positive, and zero waste by 2030, all while protecting more land than they use. To address global water challenges, Microsoft has stated that the replenishment market requires new ideas, technologies, players, and partnerships. We're sharing our learnings as we continue to develop our water replenishment project portfolio. While you guys have great goals, they're not really aligning with your current cooling system methods. We believe that propylene glycol is a more efficient and effective way at cooling your water systems while also bringing your goals into a reality. So we want to help you guys achieve your sustainability goals and actually have you become water positive by 2030. Our solution makes your goals a reality.
Now, I would venture to say you are surprised we solved this unethical issue, but how are we not creating another environmental sustainability issue? Well, PG is actually used in many day-to-day functions without you even realizing it. It is used to obtain moisture and absorb water in many pharmaceuticals, foods, and makeup products. It is actually most likely used in this air conditioning system right now. It is also biodegradable and used as smoke or fog in firefighting training and theatrical productions.
Now again, it's a hot day out, and you might want something cold and refreshing to drink, maybe an ice-cold draft beer. Now you may be wondering, how does this beer stay so cold? Well, it's actually because of propylene glycol. Propylene glycol has been used in brewery systems for as long as we know, and many workers have become used to using this in their cooling systems. And this is similar to what we want to do to your AI data centers. Data centers use up about 90% of the country's watersheds, making them one of the top 10 commercial industries for water consumption in the United States. So that actually brings me to my next point about PG. PG can be recycled for up to 20 years. When the time comes, there are many ethical ways to dispose of it. But the disposal process that we think is the best is to hand it over to the Texas facilities, such as Meadows Group and Crystal Clean, because they work to restore PG's properties and purities and reserve some of its natural elements so that it can be used in new products so that we can reduce it and reuse it and reduce the environmental impact. So essentially, having to buy PG every 20 years is feasible, and most importantly, it brings you closer to becoming more sustainable.
While I think we made the ethical issues of the overwater consumption clear, it is also connected to serious environmental injustices. Now imagine this. You are a member of a team and you do all of the work for a project, but someone else gets the credit. This is a similar concept when it comes to water scarcity. Countries who have data centers and consume all of the water do not face this heavy burden. Rather, it is countries who don't get to benefit from AI that receive the heaviest of burdens of these issues. These countries can be Kenya, South Africa, and Yemen.
We don't really like to think about this, but our environmental impact has severe consequences on our planet. We live in an environment where over half of our population doesn't have access to clean water and sanitation. Like we said before, during our 10-minute presentation today, 5 children have sadly perished because of your unsustainable current cooling operations. When this is the case, is it really just for a computer to receive more water than our own people?
Thank you.
Thank you.
2 minutes and 20 seconds to boot. So I got a question. So we talked, so I listened to this yesterday, so I have a little bit more insight. We had talked about, this was a Western, the North American data center challenge. So can you help me understand, if I'm using like water, irresponsibly in the U.S. for pulling these data centers, how does that affect Africa? Like, do I have, because we're not pouring water to them, so help me understand, is the injustice in the right to water, wherever you live, regardless of whether there's a data center that's impacting it?
Well, over in the entire world, there's 274 data centers that Microsoft has over the world. And while most of them are in the United States, there's about maybe like 30 that are in other places. And they are in very like fragile regions, such as I saw one in like Bangladesh, there's about 3 in India, and there's none in Africa, so that's good, but they're still in these fragile regions that don't have access to fresh water like we do.
Okay, that's good to know, because I would have probably stated that, because when I heard, I heard incorrectly yesterday, but it felt like your focus was on the U.S., but then you were talking about data centers in the U.S., we were talking about water insecurities in other regions, and now, again, Bangladesh is certainly a very fragile place, and I would probably like to reference that. Well, I love your business strategies. I think it's like huge in terms of what it can do with all the AI proliferation. So a couple of things is I thought you made it personal, which was great. Like no one wants to hear about child's dying every 5 minutes, right? It's just hurts stopping. And I liked the fact that you were holding, like you were talking about Microsoft's accountability. Like you want to hit your targets. You're not going to hit your targets. Let's talk about how we can help you hit your targets. That way, you're bringing up to them the commitments they made, which if they don't hit them, it's going to have brand reputational concerns as well as environmental. I like the notion about the comment about the fish and how that affects them. I might have said, look how that impacts the entire ecosystem, because the more you can make it a systemic issue versus just a local issue, which you did make it systemic, we need to build on that about if these fishes don't survive or they have these impacts, it creates issues and burden on the whole ecosystem, which is even another thing to consider. I'm glad you explained the propylene glycol, like a little bit more about how it works, and also what it means for us longer term. Because sometimes we do these short-term fixes, and then we realize that that's not a good idea. Like it's going to actually hurt us more in the future. So you're not bankrupting the future for today, which I really appreciate. And I don't know how others think about this, but maybe I'm just very linear in how I think about this. But I probably would have started first with, because you jumped into the child's issues, which is a great way to capture me, but I wasn't getting that tie between, okay, water and Microsoft until you got into the data centers and the AI. So I may put that up a little bit earlier on, because that would then make anything. Now I get the connection between why these issues are happening, why you're bringing up the issues with the environment, because it's around the business that Microsoft is in and how that impacts. You talked about that, but later on, so I would have brought that up a little bit more earlier on to have that connection. And I think I also love the fact that you guys talked about like how technology can, like, well, it can hurt us, it can help us if we use the right types of things like the chemicals you were talking about. So I think it's good to tie that technology can be bad, or it can be good if we know how to like leverage it and use it properly. And I thought you guys were super comfortable with your topic, and I didn't see, looking at notes a little bit on your front, but that's, like, it was very minor, and you had great eye contact. And when you were talking about like the sometimes you talk about bad things, people smile because you're trying to like make eye contact. You were like very serious. You're like you.
Yeah, feel the pull.
Exactly, right? Because I remember like when I was younger and I'd tell people bad news, they'd smile because I was just like
nervous,
right?
Yeah.
You didn't do that, which is awesome because it made it that much more compelling. So again, great job. And I'm glad I knew your topic even more having sat through it. You did a really nice job.
Thank you so much.
On IT. Last, but very important, is the Veritas Consulting, the inhumane cost of clean energy, Tesla supply chain issues. What a timely topic, huh?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Will you guys let me know when you're ready?
Dear Tesla Board of Directors, thank you for having us again, the team of Veritas Consulting, composed by Cristina and myself, Fernando. Tesla's mission of transforming the world into sustainable energy has been called into question through some palpable contradictions. Right now, we have seen that Tesla's main battery supplier, Glencore, has toppled the list of human rights abuses for a second year in a row, according to The Verge. How can Tesla continue to lead the industry, an industry so embedded with ethical consumers, in this sea of news that try to undermine its leadership? We understand that the EV market, it's a market that it's deeply embedded with this darkness of child labor, forced labor, and environmental destruction. So here, we ask ourselves again, how can Tesla continue to lead this market with an environmental point of view and taking into account all the suffering that this market costs us?
So let's dive deep into the ethical dilemma. First, what the public sees, what you are seeing. What has set the alarm? The public SPESG scores of 2024, where Tesla has scored 37 over 100. But what are they doing? Their competitors, Volkswagen and Toyota, other car companies are scoring even 10 or 15 points more than what Tesla is doing. And they are not that much focused on sustainability. So what are we doing wrong? We are scoring low in things such as business ethics and labor conditions. But why? Because while Tesla is building its electrical vehicle batteries, our supply chain, particularly in the Congo, raises serious red flags about how ethical this clean image really is. So our ethical dilemma boils down into three main key issues. First of all, child labor, often hidden behind poor documentation. We're talking about 35,000 children working in mines. This number must be much closer to zero, taking into account all the severe harm that this is causing to their health. Secondly, the inhumane working conditions, including hazardous labor and systemic abuse. We are talking about entire communities being displaced. We're talking about tunnels collapsing and killing miners. Last but not least, the environmental degradation coming from the practices of mining that poison land and water. But if we narrow this dilemma into two main key topics, I want you to stay with this: Glencore and Tesla's partnership and the proliferation of child labor. Glencore and Tesla have partnered to secure cobalt, a key mineral for the production of electrical vehicle batteries. This partnership, coming from 2020, has secured up to 6,000 tons per year for TESA of cobalt. But where does Glencore operate? Glencore operates in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where human rights abuses are not just common, they are systemic. This partnership raises two main critical concerns that apply to the ethical side of this dilemma. Firstly, all the allegations that Glencore has regarding human rights abuses. This is not just about an hypothetical crisis. This is about miners being killed in the tunnels. This is about persons that are given their lives for a small salary with unsafe working conditions. Secondly, all the children that have been documented to be working in these mines. Children that must be in school. Children that are compromising their health. A study carried out by the United States Environmental Protection Agency shows that children working in these mining areas show twice the level of manganese and uranium in their bodies as children that are not part of these mining areas. These exposures are linked to severe respiratory illnesses and can even cause DNA damage. So this is not about an hypothetical crisis. This is something that is documented. This ethical crisis is happening right now in the Congo. But this is not just about highlighting the problems. It's about providing solutions. Why? Because we believe that TESA has the power to change things happening in Congo. We know that TESA is seeing the risks. It's taking a look at the data and it yet prioritizes production over protection. So we are asking ourselves, how might we change this situation? How can TESA use their leverage to set the standard in an industry that might be more focused on working with ethical practices?
Thank you so much. So, we understand the problem. Cobalt is essential for the energy transition that we are seeing today. But in my country, we have a saying, tell me who you go out with, or tell me who you are. Can Tesla continue to partner with Glencore? Can Tesla continue to build profit on the backs of children, of miners dying in tunnels, on the environmental destruction that we are seeing in the Democratic Republic of Congo? To better these conditions, we propose a two-pillar strategy that's called the CORE strategy, the Cobalt Oversight for Responsible Ethics strategy. And it will attack the three main pillars, the three main pain points we're seeing in this region, that are the child labor, the inhumane working conditions, and the environmental destruction. First, let's start by the child labor. Child labor is not an abstract concept. We need to see the faces of the children that are working and dying in the mines. How do we better this condition? Well, first, with satellite image powered by AI that helps us see these artisanal mines and illegal mines in order to not partner with them, to partner with other responsible mines, or in case that doesn't work, the second stage of our plan, to create a cobalt credit system where we pay these mines to have humane working conditions in order to those children get either a living wage, better equipment, or go to school. The inhumane working conditions is also a pillar we want to attack because it's unacceptable. The satellite images would help us detect unstable grounds that are prone to collapsing. And of course, the cobalt credit will give the miners better equipment and better salaries in order to not bring these fatalities up. And of course, the environmental destruction, this satellite images will help us detect endangered species, endangered zones where mines should not be. And we will compensate mines that do not open there with our cobalt credits. So what's the core of our core? It's a strategy of being self-conscious, not from not for profit, but for humane working conditions, for the betterment of humanity.
Yesterday, we were asked how would we envision these communities. And of course, it's idealistic to say that we will end child labor. And it's very unlikely because in these regions, it's something very common. But in the short run, we are envisioning a community that enables children to go to school, where parents earn a high salary coming from the carbon credit system that enables these best practices, and really tackles this problem of child labor. In the long run, we are talking about a systemic change powered by this carbon credit initiative, where best practices are setting the standard of an industry. And as the dean said in our welcoming session, never doubt that at every point in history, it has been a small group of thoughtful people willing to make a change. And that's all that has. Thank you very much.
Well, 10 minutes, you guys had 17 seconds left. That's awesome. Well, this is a really interesting topic. I'm getting so aware of things I was not aware of. It's actually kind of depressing, but we're gonna conquer it. So while you guys did a great pacing, I think probably out of the whole group, you just were very measured, and you didn't overwhelm me with, too much too fast. So I thought that was excellent. I like the notion, and I think it was what we talked about yesterday, it's like you talk about the 3 pillars or the 3 things you want people to understand that you're working on. That's really good because that's digestible. Like what are the 3 things you're going to talk about, and then what are the ways you're going to address those. You painted a very vivid picture, probably more than you needed to, about the impact on the children. Like you made your point, but I could have maybe said it a couple times and be done, but that's okay. It shows your passion, which I love. You set the problem very well, and I like this notion of protection versus production. I really like that because that made a lot of sense to me, right? It's like, and really, you can do both, actually, right? If you do the production right, you can protect people along the way. One thing you said at the end, which I thought was good, that I would have brought in earlier, is the notion of every child has a right to a childhood, right? Which is one of the big ethical considerations, and you kind of touched on that, but that's hard hitting to me because right now we are robbing them of that because of the socioeconomic issues as well as they're getting exploited. These families don't have money, so send their kids into the mines whereby they should be in school. And the cobalt credit's interesting. So I'm just curious, how does that work? The cobalt credit.
So the main idea is that you are enabling these best practices. So we did something similar to the carbon markets.
Yeah.
So you are buying credits from mines that are doing great practices. So even if you cannot change the whole system, you are investing in those mines that are doing the right thing. So what we aim is that, and that's why we explain that in the long run, we want to create the systemic change because you are setting the standard. And if you invest in creating more mines that really do best practices and avoid all these dilemmas that we have explained, you can really create a change, and maybe not just by closing your own mine or not working with that, because Tesla requires a really high amount of cobalt, and you cannot change all those mines to best practices. But you can invest the other way to offset the effect that you are causing by buying this cobalt credit system. And you indirectly, well, directly, you are funding this best practices, and you are creating.
Okay, that's thank you for that context. The other thing I thought was a great idea, and I would have gone a little bit deeper, is this notion of AI and using satellites to help. Because that's also that's helping them really pick the right places and also be aware of the things that aren't going well. So I would have even talked a little bit more about that.
Okay.
That was...
Satellite imaging for controlled deforestation has been used by governments like Norway and for other projects like this. So the whole point is we were suggested yesterday to using Starlink due to its connection to Tesla, but we decided it wasn't a really good option due to the lack of transparency that would get.
Yeah.
But it would partner with satellite imaging companies to scan the areas, as has been shown that it's done before, yeah, and works, and then using AI to store the data, to what should I say? To track the data, and yeah.
Yeah, so what I like about that is, the other add-on is you can do it for others. So you're not just solving
Exactly.
Tesla's issues, so I would like you to go on and say, this is not only good for Tesla, it's good for others. And the other thing I like too is you did talk about the competition, which is a way to kind of poke at them and say, listen, you know, Volkswagen's not even trying to do this and they're performing better, right, than what Tesla is. I got that right?
Yes. Well, the thing is that there are companies that, something that shocked us is that the ESG rating ratio of these companies that have not explicit focused on sustainability, while Tesla's mission is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy.
Yeah.
And these companies such as Volkswagen or Toyota, they have other missions and they are not particularly interested in sustainability, although they have their electric vehicles options and whatever. Tesla has a special focus on that and scoring less.
Less than that, yeah.
So that's painful.
That's very painful, and I think that's what a board would want to know, is like, how's the competition doing? And the fact that they're not even investing in it, they're doing better, so it's really compelling. So I think you guys did great. Is English your second language?
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's impressive.
But we're not allowed to say where we're from.
I'm going to take a guess, but that's okay. And also I have to say the first one's and the last one's like the hardest, I think, because the first is like, what to expect, and the last is like, oh, I've got to go after all these people, but you did a really great job. Really, really impressive.
Everyone did
That's
that.
right.
Thank you so much.
So, I think we're done, right? Yep. So, I have a sense there's like, you guys are gonna go like, have a good time someplace, go to the beach, go.
Yeah, go to the beach.
Yeah, right. So you guys did a great job. I'm so impressed, and I think you're citizens of the world, so help fix the things that my generation is broken. And I'm looking for you guys to do that. So well done job. Thank you.